Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Dmitri Sarle, and I'll be your moderator for the evening today, where we'll be talking about how to raise funding in 2 weeks. And that is mainly about the fundraising process we're going to help you with through the TechMinsk Accelerator program that will happen at the end of July. That said, we hope that it will provide you with value whether you join the accelerator or not, and help you to understand what's the landscape like right now in the world that we live in today at this particular moment. I'd like to thank USAID for helping us to make sure that we can make this a reality. So thank you so much for your help and support. First up, I really would like to invite my good friend and colleague, Will, to tell us about the investment landscape of the world that we live in today. Will, please welcome to the show.
I'm going to take 5 to 7 minutes and just give you a little bit of an outlook for what I think startups in the TechMinsk ecosystem are facing in terms of a fundraising environment. I'm part of actually 3 investment groups. TechMinsk, I'm a partner in TechMinsk Ventures. I'm also a partner in Courage Ventures, which is a Finnish fund, and also at Open Circle Capital, which is a Romanian fund. In my own portfolio, across these 3 funds, plus some direct investments, I have 41 startups. 17 have been trying to fundraise actively right now. 10 have succeeded and 7 have not, and hopefully some of those will still succeed. But I want to bring that to bear as I go through these slides, kind of some insights from those. So agenda is a little bit of a big picture situation. Probably not going to surprise anybody with the current environment, but maybe just update you, give some ground level observations, and then give some thoughts about what you can focus on today. So current situation is investments, VC investments are down about 20 to 30% across the board. And even that's probably about right for the earliest stage for angel and seed rounds as well. If you look at, these are global VC investments looking annually up to basically today. So this is year to date 2020. What you can see is the blue is actually the number of deals. So globally, again, typically, at the peak, we saw almost 22,000 VC deals in 2016. It's been declining, and this year it's probably going to be down in the 17,000 range. Then what you can also see the actual volume, the amount of investment peaked in 2018. That's been declining and will probably be about the same level this year, somewhere around 300 billion. But that's a huge number, very high level, and can't do a lot with it. If you look at European VC investment, that peaked a little bit later. So in general, what you see is Europe trails, kind of lags the US by a year or two. So you can see Europe trailed in terms of number of deals about by a year, as well as volume of deals. They're also down and going to be down a little bit this year as well, somewhere 10, 20, 30%. So then when we look just at European angel and seed VC investments, which I really think is the cohort kind of to look at for companies coming out of the Belarus / kind of Eastern European ecosystems, I think you basically look at this, kind of share the same trends with the rest of Europe largely. And you can also see kind of dramatic downturns in seed and angel. So my best guess is the number of deals will be down about 30% this year, and the volume down by about 20. Other sources bear out the same trends. Crunchbase shows, so this was based on Preqin, which is a kind of a major data provider. If you look at Crunchbase, they also report down about 27%. CB Insights, another major player, down about 27%. Axios about down 25%. So, you can generally see that even last year was a bit lower than the year before. This year is going to be down from that. No big surprise there, right? So some trends at the ground level, financing rounds are taking longer. Everybody agrees on this. There's a survey by NFX, which is a significant, mainly fintech investor, but they do broadly SaaS. They surveyed founders. They found that 88% of them think investors are moving slower, which I can definitely see is happening. On the other hand, good companies still raising rounds. I just searched on Finland and the Baltics, which I think is an even better cohort for Belarus. Kind of as a from a life cycle approach. There've been 30 sizable deals closed in the last 3 months, according to Preqin, and that's obviously understates the total number of deals because there are many of them that are not reported, so probably even many more. In other words, there are deals getting done. Valuations are probably are clearly somewhat lower on aggregate, though I think some individual deals are getting done at kind of at more or less level valuations. So they're certainly not going up, maybe going down a bit. A lot more you find people using convertible bonds, notes to balance investor interests with entrepreneurs, though some investors just won't do convertible still. So my question, my kind of final kind of thinking here is, how do you position yourself for success? I have 2 slides on this. One, the metrics that matter do not change. So you have to look at the same things. You have to be able to justify your big market opportunity. You really have to be able to identify your total addressable and strategic and serviceable markets. You need to understand your competitive positioning and your industry dynamics. So, within the kind of deck and message you're giving to VCs, you need to really be able to make that clear. Strong unit economics. This is definitely something that's been coming for the last couple years. I think as the kind of market has peaked, you really need to be measuring things at the earliest stage. I make a list here. I won't read through all of these, but I'll share this so you can have access to it. But these are basically all the measures that you need to be following, even if you're at the very earliest stage. And I really emphasize that. It's never too early. Even if you only have one paying customer, start looking at these measures and figuring out what they are today and what you expect them to be in the longer run, because investors are going to ask you about your unit economics. And I think that's something that we'll really try to develop during the TechMinsk incubator. Next is, know them cold. So don't stumble around on these numbers, but know them. Efficient growth, understand where you can invest to make the biggest bang for your buck. Keep as much dry powder, cash, so when the right moment comes that you can really pour on the growth. And then, as always, of course, building up a great team, but more than ever, it's not only about the founders. Founders are super important, but you need to also prove out that you can build a team around you that can execute. And can you motivate that talent to launch your startup to greatness? So get more than just the sum of the parts, but really get some synergies out of it. So that's number one. Your metrics that you need to kind of track and look at don't change. Second is, fundraising is a professional selling process. And I think that's something that's emphasized. People kind of tend to go out and kind of randomly in their spare time try to meet investors, get access to investors. It's really a successful, it's a professional process you need to treat like any sales process. So first of all, look at getting commitments from existing investors, super important as always. Second, pinpoint the outside investors who are investing today. So there are a number of sources that we'll share with you during the incubator where you can kind of track which investors are doing what. And then, of course, look for ones that are really focusing on your segment and stage. So try to really kind of put yourselves in the shoes of the investor. Be ready to obviously offer competitive discounts and caps on your convertible notes. If you're doing that, and if you're doing an equity round, valuations are, you need to be competitive on those. So you need to understand what the rest of the market is doing and try to be kind of to make sense relative to others in your segment. Find somebody, super important to find somebody to take charge of the process. Usually it needs to be the CEO / founder or one of the founders. Sometimes you can bring somebody either from the rest of the team or from the outside to do it. But, you know, shared responsibility means that nobody's responsible, and you'll get, you know, you won't raise money. And then, of course, using connectors well to get to investors that are seeking investments like yours. A few things I just put together. I think these are really good presentations, kind of videos, some blogs. So this Navigating New Seed Landscape, very good, by Mar Hutchinson. Basics of unit economics, something everybody needs to be on top of. Basics of market sizing. This is a great 1-hour panel study from top US kind of Silicon Valley VCs about surviving the downturn economy, lessons from 01 and 08. And then last, if you can get your hands on Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb, it's a great read. So those are the things that I would highlight. You know, I think everybody has advice on fundraising. Honestly, as everybody knows, nobody can predict the future. Nobody could predict the future before. Now it's even harder. The main thing you can do is, you know, within the community to kind of build a network around your company that will expose you to potential investors and get you going the right way. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Dima.
Thanks, Will. Thank you for the information and insight. I hope you all will look at the resources and look at this basic data and make sure that using that, you will start working towards what it is that you can do in your company. I'm going to spend a few minutes on talking myself also about how I see the world changing and what we can do about it. So, you know, one thing that I definitely see developing and changing is how the world changed right now, right? So basically, when everything started happening in the beginning of 2020, we were hit with one of the biggest crises that we've seen in the last century. And when the virus happened, I asked myself the question of, you know, what's going to happen from this moment on? What is going to happen to founders, entrepreneurs, investors? And is this an opportunity? Because I think, you know, true entrepreneurs treat every crisis, every disaster, every problem as a potential opportunity. And I agree with Will that it is extremely hard to predict the future and to understand what is really going to happen. But one reliable trick I found towards predicting the future is to simply reiterate the past, right? Just to go and look at the past and say that exactly the same thing is going to happen as it always has happened. So I looked at the previous similar crisis, the Spanish flu of 1918. 100 years ago, the world was in a very similar situation where a huge part of the population died, most of them in the second wave of the virus, which has not yet happened with COVID-19. But what followed after was what was interesting to me. What followed after in almost every single country in the world was technical issue here. What followed after almost in every single country in the world was the fact that it boomed, right? There was a lot of innovation and growth in almost every single economy in the world. We developed the automobile went everywhere. Penicillin was developed. Televisions became the norm. We invented the vacuum cleaner. We started bicycling, the refrigerator. Music and culture changed. The way we dressed changed. Jazz came the thing. The dishwasher. The way the hospitalization system worked. The whole system of treating people with disease changed. Russia at the time and the US were the countries that pioneered the healthcare systems in the world, and they changed how healthcare was seen in the world. Transportation changed. Women were started fighting for their rights, and votes for women were given. A lot of things changed. Air travel, telephones, everything. And when I look at that, I'm like, well, if that happened before, is it possible that exactly the same thing is going to happen now? And I think it is, right? I think these are the areas that will definitely change right now. And I think the entrepreneurs who see this are the ones who are going to grab this opportunity and look at, okay, what's going to be with transportation when we are more fearful of viruses? Is it going to be more private or more public? How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to do with healthcare? Are we going to be doing more healthcare from home? Are we going to do more tests from home? Is it going to be more personalized? What's going to happen there? What about entertainment? Entertainment is changing a lot and already this year. You know, you can't go to the cinema anymore that easily. You can't go to events. You're moving more online. Appliances. I had to get a 3D printer at home because of the situation that we have right now. What's going to change with, you know, miniature production, doing things from home? How are we going to move about? What kind of music will be inspired by all of this, right? So all of these things I think are going to change. And I think the entrepreneurs that we're looking for in the TechMinsk program are the ones who see this situation right now as a big opportunity for them to show that something is changing and they can actually help to change the world to become a better place in the future. So the entrepreneurs that I know who are raising funding, in addition to what Will said, are the ones who look the crisis, or whatever you call it right now, the situation right now, straight in the eye, and they go like, well, I actually see this as an opportunity. They're changing their businesses, they're adapting, and they're seeing it as something that can actually do right now and do better, right? So my call to action in this case is to look at all of these areas. Look at Ttle everything. Look at retail and office space. Look at crowdsourcing. How we're going to deal with safety. What are we going to do with packaging, logistics, supply chain? And I think right now is the time to be alive. If you look at any crisis, the 2008 crisis, the 1918 crisis, the best investments that VCs have ever done were always done shortly after. Facebook, Airbnb, you name it, right? So they were all done right after the crisis. So I think that's something to keep in mind, to realize that the smart investors are actually looking very actively right now into things that they want to invest in, and the founders who are persevering. And the same thing with TechMinsk. We are tasked with creating a program for you guys at TechMinsk, which is an accelerator program, but it will only be 2 weeks. And we thought, you know, what can we do in those 2 weeks? And most accelerator programs at that time focus on simple things like pitching and fundraising, and we'll do some of that as well. But I think the key thing to preparing for the future world is to build a strong foundation for your companies. And unfortunately, my theory is that founders skip the foundation, right? We are so ingrained in running after the MVP, running after the lean approach and the business model canvas, and they're all amazing tools to be used at the right time. But we've skipped the foundation of what your company is built upon. Why are you doing your business? What is the values of your business? How are you going to attract those values to be able to do sales? And that might sound like a thing you do afterwards. But in reality, if you look at the best companies in the world, they've actually done this thinking very early on. And what we're going to do is give you a very strong system and foundation to build your business upon. So this is going to be a very intense course, kind of like, you know, an MBA in 2 weeks. And unlike many accelerator programs, it's not going to be, you know, each day by different mentors who don't know anything about what happened before, what's going to happen after, that is completely incoherent. They never talk to each other and they're just presenting something. No, we're going to be the same mentors every day with the same companies, helping you to find the niches in the world that's going to come after this. So our goal is to help you understand where the world is going to and how can you build a company that will survive in the environment that is to come. And that is our passion and goal. So what I believe the situation gives you is basically this: a blank screen, screen where basically you see absolutely nothing. And that is a blank canvas that you can draw upon. And we want to give you the right tools and paintbrushes to draw upon it the picture that you see for the world, the one that you want to build. So with that, I want to encourage you to be creative, to look for your purpose and to build companies that will really shape how our society will live in the future. So do what you were born to do and adapt. And if you like what you're hearing, you can join us in the TechMinsk Accelerator program that will take place at the end of July. Simply apply in the form. It does take a bit of time to fill out the form, about half an hour, as I tried it myself. But we do that for a purpose because we really want to get to know you and to understand why you're doing the things that you do. And right now, I'm going to open up the floor to questions, and we'll be able to answer any questions, both about the Accelerator program, but also anything else that you might throw at us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dima. So we have a couple of questions which we've already received from our potential participants. Let's go through them. People are asking, is the acceleration process online for the whole period of acceleration process?
Yes, I mean, it is online, right? Right now, it's very difficult to travel. Many of my friends had tickets booked and flights are getting canceled on the spot. So it's very hard to travel for a lot of people. And that's why we decided to do it online. But I don't think that detracts anything from the value, right? I've now been in 2 online accelerator programs and one big event online where everything was online. And in some ways, I liked it more because it was extremely hands-on. And because when you think about an online environment, you actually have to come up with very creative ways to keep people engaged. And that creativity forces you to maybe even do a better job, hopefully. So yes, it's going to be fully online.
Maybe I can just add on top of that, I want to reiterate what you said about it's actually possible to make it even better than it is in the physical environment, because it's one of the things we've really focused on is what are the things that we can do better digitally than we could do if this was physical. So, potentially we can make this a lot more efficient for you.
Yeah. I think it's also like, an exercise in remote working, right? So there's some things that technology does really well, like being able to instantly teleport yourself to any location, right? And what I mean by that is in an accelerator, if I want to speak to one team and then to the next team, I literally have to walk from one team to the next team, and I get stopped, I get bumped, and it's very inefficient in some ways. But here I can just go from one room to the other room and help you guys out.
And by the way, bring others in from all over the world, basically, when we have kind of specific reasons to have them. And it's actually remarkable because you can bring people in that would never be able to come physically, but can come digitally for 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes that can make a big impact.
Thank you very much. The next question. By the way, we have people who are writing just in comments here in Google Meetings. But let's go through the list which we received from our participants. How does TechMinsk structure deals for selected startups? And also the question about when investors make investment decisions. Before the program, after the program, part before the program, and part after the program, how is it going to happen?
I can begin, and Will, hopefully you can do the specifics parts on the actual investment timeline. But basically what we decided is that the program is rather short, so it's 2 weeks. So it's not a very long process in terms of time. It's not a 10-week process. So we would like to invest into companies after we get to know them a little bit more. So basically during those 2 weeks, right? So we want to make the decision after the 2 weeks. At the same time, I think it's fair to say, and Will correct me if I'm wrong, but my assumption is that we want to accept companies into the batch that we pretty much want to invest in, because otherwise, it's not efficient for us to invite companies we don't want to invest in, right? So it's basically we're inviting companies we want to invest in, and the only thing you can do is you can prove us otherwise. And hopefully you don't. Like the goal is, of course, to invest.
Yes, so I think, Dima's done a good job. So this will be different than other accelerators. And again, we're running it for the first time this way. So we're a little bit building the bike while we're riding it. I think it's fair to say in our first run, we invested in 5 companies and a little over $50,000. I think our goal here is to take in, as many companies as we think can really benefit from the program. and then run a very competitive process that a significant number of those will get investments. At the end, they'll be negotiated. They'll be not that far from what the terms are from other accelerators. We'll get some single-digit number of amount of equity, either through equity investment or a convertible and potentially even a safe note. We've done actually all three of those at different times. But it will be a negotiated process with the companies that are selected at the end. I think that the key thing, of course, we want is only bring companies in that could potentially receive investment at the end and that will benefit from this program one way or the other.
Thank you. And how do we structure deals? Through convertible loans, safe, other instruments?
Well, I think Will has answered that briefly, right? So all of the above are acceptable, right, Will?
Yes. Yeah, it's as we all know, there's a right price for everything. So we figure out a balance, what works for the startup, what works for us and our investors, because we actually have a group of limited partners behind investors behind the fund. So it has to align for our investors, for us, and for the startup. So it'll be a fair negotiation process.
Thank you so much. Where should the company be registered? Is there any problem? Is there any requirement to be registered in High Tech Park in Belarus?
No, there's not a requirement. Again, it's going to be what's right for the startup. We focus on Belarus-related companies, so companies that have strong operations in Belarus. But it could be, that their only entity is in Belarus, either HTP or not HTP. It could be that their headquarters is in London or US with a subsidiary or a team in Belarus. So it's, again, going to be part of the discussion. And I think, my advice for startups is to, every startup has a kind of an optimal path where they should be domiciled, and hopefully we can help address that a bit during the program as well if there needs to be some restructuring done.
So a very popular question about Spring applicants. Those who have already applied for Spring batch but it didn't happen, whether they need to reapply for the summer batch. Yes,
well, you should fill out the new questionnaire. Again, I think I'm accurate in saying that, but the questionnaire again is probably a little bit more limited than the last one, because again, keep in mind that when we were, before the COVID period, this was planned to be structured like a normal accelerator where we would invest some money in the beginning and then, perhaps at the end. In this case, since we're investing at the end, we're going to learn a lot more about you. So everybody needs to fill out the application. And please note when you do that, that you also applied in the earlier round as well.
I think the important part with that is the fact that I'm sure for every single company that applied in the previous batch, for the previous batch, things have changed since then. And if they haven't, you're doing something wrong, right? They either improved or they became worse. Hopefully they improved, or you persevered. So the fact that we're asking you to reapply is not just because we want to get you to do more work. It's simply because we hope and we think that you have more to show us, right? So there may be the case that perhaps if we ran the accelerator program when we were supposed to run them, you would not be selected. But maybe things have changed now for you completely, and now you would be our first choice. If you don't fill it out, we simply don't know that data, right? So we want to simply get an update on where you are and get to know you a little bit better, which will benefit both of us, right? We also want to know more about what it is you want to get out of the accelerator that will help us to shape the program for you and prepare the mentors and things like that.
Thank you so much. we have similar questions regarding the metrics, which are important for us during the selection process. So, which are those metrics? And also, a company has MVP without traction, whether it fits our program. And also, case of mobile application. How TechMinsk understands whether a mobile application is successful or not through count of active users, amount of active users, through monetization, which other criteria are important for us.
So I just want to tell you a quick story about one of my portfolio companies here in Finland. It's called Meru Health, a digital mental health clinic, and they just raised, they did, I can't give the number, but the revenue last year was well under 100,000 euros, and they just raised $8 million in the US at a quite high valuation. The important thing for it, so my point is, I've also often thought that, you know, looking at those metrics that they had, which was very low revenue, but extremely validated solutions. So they had research showing the kind of efficacy of their digital solutions. They had a great team. They had a lot of different, and then they had a clear model that they were headed to, a business model that did not have much traction yet, but they had some good partnerships open already. So I think, you know, that story is basically being used to say that traction kind of shows up in a lot of different ways in different companies. And I think, you know, my first message is it's up to you as a founder to kind of lead, kind of convince us that the metrics that you're following, that you've been able to kind of create so far are important. And, you know, again, we're going to look at look back at the presentation I just did and some of the things Dmitri said. I think, you know, shows you different areas that can be important. We list some issues that we want insight from you in the application. So kind of focus on those. It's you know, I'm not going to say we don't have a fixed formula here, but, you know, again, if you're able to prove on, you know, a few key metrics that you think are important, that you think signal that you can grow fast and efficiently in the future, then, you know, focus on those and tell us why those are important to you. And then, you know, again, there may be some discussion afterwards, but you know, focus on the things that you feel show your growth potential is the bottom line. Yeah, Dmitri, maybe you can add more to that.
Yeah, I'll add another story. I can't name the company, but another story is there was this company that I knew that was growing by all metrics that startups use as, you know, definitely on path to become the next unicorn. 50,000 euros MRR, 100% month-on-month growth. Everything was fantastic. And everybody believed that this is going to be a huge success story. And then they went bankrupt in 6 months, right? Why? Well, there's many reasons why, right? But one of them is because many founders don't realize the fact, and this is valuable for anyone doing any startup, is, for example, the adoption curve, right? You launch something completely brand new, targeting a very specific customer segment, and they love it. And they are the early adopters. They believe in your company. They will try anything new. And then you exhaust those early adopters. You capture the market of early adopters of that target market, right? But then the growth stage of people who are not early adopters, they are not ready to use your product, for instance. And then your company doesn't have anywhere to grow. So, you know, yes, you had all the KPIs, but your foundation was horrible and you didn't know how to grow and how to scale and how to finance your company enough to go through that trough path. You had no idea, and then you died. So KPIs is important, but it's more important, as Will said, of how do you see KPIs and which ones do you pick, right? And why do you pick them? You also need to understand that KPIs, and this is what we'll talk about this in the program, is very often they're useless. Depends on the KPI, right? Very often, not always, right? It depends how you use them. But like MRR, sometimes if you only chase MRR and try to improve your MRR, well, you're just chasing money. It doesn't actually tell you what to do, right? So it's just the result of your activity as a business. So it's not really a very good metric. It's just a result, right? It's just the end result of what you did. That's the end result. But it doesn't tell me how well do you run your business, or how well do you know your customer, your future customer? How well can you predict the future? What's your value proposition fit? How do you validate processes? Do you have founder values alignment? What's your company culture like? Have you thought thoroughly through your business model? How do you use your strategy, your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, your sales generation strategy, your evaluation capabilities? These are the questions I want to know, right? More than I want to know KPIs, for example. I want to understand, I think that building a company is building an engine. And I want to know what kind of engine did you build, right? Which parts are missing? And if you go like, well, I built, a little engine and it seems to generate money, but I'll be like, well, look, there's no gear shift and there's no wheels, and then there's no, no seats or anything. How is this going to work when you go to the real market? That's what I want to know. So I think when it comes to KPIs, we're looking at it more holistically. And it's about how you present the KPIs to us than the KPIs themselves. And sorry, I like to talk. I'm sorry about that. But there was another question about somebody who just has an idea, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Like technically, it's very hard for an investor to invest just into an idea. But it doesn't mean we won't, I think. Well, I don't know. That's your money, right?
No, that's correct. I mean, I think it makes sense it makes sense to apply. But again, by definition, as said, we do look for tractions, and it's brought out in the application. So it's quite hard to show traction, obviously, if you really only have an MVP at this point. But on the other hand, if you can show that there's a really high likelihood of getting that to market efficiently without having to raise a whole ton of money, definitely wouldn't rule it out. And again, I think it's worth your time to give the application a shot.
Will, if I may add, just
please.
I believe this is a great time. I mean, the current time we're all living in, a great time for new companies to come in. So in this case, if you're addressing a specific problem, a specific global challenge, which is kind of produced by the global challenges we're all living through, that's a great case for MVP showing it to the global community and showing it to us and discussing how it can really grow into a global thing. So that's particular case probably when we definitely will be willing to look at your product, even if it's just an idea or MVP stage.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, there's also a question of whether we're only focusing on companies who do post-pandemic startup solutions, right? But no, we're looking for all kinds of companies, I think, and from many different industries. We're in industry unspecific, right? But at the same time, I think this question might be tied to having a brand new idea, right? Like if your idea is so good that we just say, look, these guys must be helped, right? Then, why not accept you to the batch, right? When we think, or in other cases, sometimes you have just an idea, but your team is so strong that investor will invest just on the team alone, right? Like the case of this voice chat app in the US that raised some crazy amount of money without even being released, right? Just because of the founding team being so strong. So I think there's always a special case. And if you believe you're the special case, I think it's worth applying.
What are TechMinsk expectations from selected startups in the end of the program?
No, I'll start, and then basically Dmitri is going to be kind of I don't know what the right word is, but the master of ceremonies of the accelerator, the kind of the orchestra leader, let's put it that way. And it's going to be a challenging setup. So we're we don't want companies and people coming in that are only halfway going to kind of slack through the program and hope that they raise the 50K. That would be a waste of everybody's time. So we have a pretty rigorous program set up. We think that, again, it's worth a lot, the actual program, in terms of what you're going to be exposed to. So we do expect that, one or more, hopefully, more than one person from each startup is able to join. Now we understand, of course, like always, there's going to be cases where you have a customer meeting, or there's some reason that, some people might have to skip given parts, but we really want some redundancy on your team so that you have more than one person joining up. And then, a second thing I would say is we really expect you guys to bring, new ideas also to the program. So we kind of get we get synergies throughout. Again, it will be competitive at the end of the day, but at the same time, I think there's going to be kind of chances for everybody to learn from each other's experiences. Like I said, I think that, we're going to be able to do something here that's incredibly efficient because it's online, and that we're also going to be able to monitor pretty well your progress. So it's important that you come in at a high level, but it's equally important that you leave at an even higher level, I guess I put it that way. Dmitri,
yeah, good. As I said, we're going to be building an engine. We're going to be building a foundation for a company, right? So we want at least one person, one of the founders, to be present at all content sessions, right? Because if on day one we'll be like, okay, now we're going to be talking about how to build a gearbox, and then you skip the part of where we're going to be talking about how to build the fuel injector. And you miss that part, and then the next part we'll be talking about how to build the driving belt, and then you'll miss a key part, right? As I said, we're an accelerator that doesn't do the normal accelerator stuff where every single day is completely unrelated. We'll bring random mentors who some know a little bit about that topic, and you talk to them. That's kind of how normal accelerators are run, right? We want a coherent process from one day to the next where we get deeply into your business. We want to understand exactly what you do. We also want to know what drives you personally as a founder. Why do you do this? What are your values? Why are you doing this business and not some other business, right? We want to understand what makes you run as an engine, right? Because if I don't understand what makes you run as an engine, I can't believe that you will ever be able to build a successful company engine. If you yourself and your own life is not an engine, it's very hard to build an engine as a startup. So we'll look at that element as well. How can we help you in your normal life so that you can build a good engine there to build a good engine here, right? And for that, we want a whole coherent thing, and we want you to participate. And the only reason we want you to participate is because, actively participate, question us, even challenge us, is because, I don't believe in knowledge transfer, right? I do believe in knowledge transfer in the sense that it's possible to transfer knowledge. I can tell you things like, what questions do investors ask? Right? Or what should you look at when it comes to signing convertible or safe notes? I can tell you that. You can also Google that. That's not hard to Google. But what is hard to do is to transfer wisdom, where you create real new insights in your own minds on how to live your life and how to build businesses. And that's what I'm really trying, and we are really trying at TechMinsk to build a system where we can help you generate those new ideas. And it's a very challenging thing to do if somebody is not fully in and fully participating. So it's important, that it will be interactive, right? We'll have elements of gamification. One game I can maybe reveal is we're going to make you play the investment game, right? We're going to make you like virtual investors, and we're going to ask you which startup would you invest out of our batch. And we'll give you the criteria that normal investors use, and we'll give you points for that. Right, we'll give you points for trying to figure out if you are a good investor, like what you invest in, right? So we'll do things like that are a little more interactive, so you understand how the game works. So full participation is kind of a necessary thing, and this desire to be there. And
I think exactly you're making a point why you can't just kind of halfway participate in this,
right.
Because there's elements that are coming in, and we're, again, this is the first time we've done it this way, but we're really trying to blaze a different trail here than the normal accelerator. And that's why I think you can hear from Dima's voice. I mean, we're pretty excited about this because these are things if this was a normal physical accelerator, there's stuff that we just could not do.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe one point to add, despite the fact it will be just 2 weeks or only 2 weeks, so quite a short time, it will be, as Dima said, very insightful, and we will build really deep relationships between the our management team, investors, and the company. And that's why it's more about, again, as Will mentioned, it's about the progress, because we will not be taking the investment decision at the demo day as many accelerators do, because that's the first time when the invited investors see the company. We will be with you together like 24/7 through the 2 weeks time. So it will give us basis to kind of learn each other and build our investment decisions throughout the way. So yeah, we will also do a demo day, which will be on an online demo day, but that's more for kind of invited investors to join our forces and join our investors at TechMinsk and probably build kind of investment decisions together to increase the TechMinsk CAC. So we maybe we can speak a bit kind of about demo day and how it will go, and about the investment decision, covering and addressing other questions. But I think that's important to keep in mind, because we will be acting together with our partners, and among those partners are VC companies, VC funds, angels, investors, and international investors will be working together with.
And I think the important thing for me there is that, like, my personal life purpose is to help people build companies or organizations, right? I'm not doing this for the money. I'm not doing this for anything else other than to find cool entrepreneurs and founders and help them build their companies. That's the only thing I care about, right? And when you come to me in a year and say, guys, this was awesome, you helped me do this and this, that's why I'm doing it, right? And that's what I look in founders as well, right? So I find that good founders, there's a saying in the startup world, ask for money, you'll get advice. Ask for advice, you'll get money, right? And I think good founders do that. They realize that there's good content there. That is not just the money. I really hope that the content me and my partner, Carl, Will, Tonya, and everyone in the team will create is actually going to be more valuable than the investment. And Carl is not here. He's the I would say, if I am the master of ceremonies, he is the mastermind of content, right? So he is not on the call today. He is in Canada right now. He is an investor, an entrepreneur himself. He had many exits. He built one of the biggest companies in South Africa at some point and exited for a very large amount. He's also doing it purely out of passion to help young entrepreneurs, and in hopes to find more investors for him personally to invest in too. Right, so see, he had exits, I had exits, I've raised money. Like, we've done this before, and we want to help others do that before, because there's nothing like a rush of seeing someone or something prosper thanks to some of your advice, even a little bit, right? It's maybe it sounds a little bit selfish or something, but that to me is the reason I'm doing this thing.
Also, Dima, we're mentioning mentors here. It's probably important to mention we're cooperating with Google for Startups.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the great points why we do it online, not why we do it online, but as a consequence, we do it online. Already about 20 Google for Startups mentors confirmed their participation in the batch, and that's twice more than the number of mentors we enjoyed during our fall batch, actually, which was offline. So 20 mentors from different countries from working for Google. That's a great, and actually they're experts in different startup topics, including technology, sales, marketing, etc., etc. So they will be joining us almost every day during the 2 weeks time.
No, it's amazing. Again, something you'd never get as a physical program.
All right. Any more questions? Nastya, I got a bit carried away with my passion for this stuff. So any actual questions that we need to answer other than the ones in my head?
Yes, the one is the question from Ilya. We have already answered on this. Where TechMinsk is interested in different kinds of startups from different industries, including sport tech industry. So guys, probably our participants have questions. Please switch on your mics and we're happy to get your questions and answer them.
I think we covered it in in great details, all.
Just let us know that you are satisfied with all our answers.
Yeah, I mean, you can also ask any other questions, right? Very happy to answer them.
Yeah, and of course, send offline by email if you have very specific questions. But again, I see there's no downside from going through the application process. I think it's actually pretty inspiring setup that was written by Dima and the guys. So I think you'll actually get something from even just doing that.
Can we have a chance to talk to someone from YouTube during the accelerator?
Yep.
You mean YouTube company?
Yeah, meaning
Probably
YouTube.
yes.
Yeah, Google YouTube.
Yeah, Google YouTube, absolutely right.
Yes.
I don't see any problem. Yeah, we can do this.
So for sure, we will. One of the great things of working with Google is when we reach out to them, they respond pretty quickly. So I think we're able to really kind of, to certain, at least to a reasonable extent, to pinpoint the right people.
I think there was a question that I saw before about what happens after the batch. It was in the pre-sent questions.
Yeah. Well, so two things. We negotiate the deal with the companies that kind of meet the objectives of the program, and then we invest, and then we keep in touch with all the companies and try to provide ongoing value to the extent we can. So hopefully we'll have, or we already have some alumni activities, but we'll be building those up as well. I don't know if there's anything on top of that.
Hello, may I address my question?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay, so first of all, my name is Vitaly. I'm CEO of startup Global Marketing Solutions. So first of all, many thanks for a very intensive and meaningful presentation. So really appreciated everything I heard. So I just want to double check and be 100% sure that for my startup is not a waste of time. So currently, all co-founders are located in different locations, in different countries. I mean, one of our founder is located in Belarus, so he is a CTO. So we don't and the company registered in Estonia. Okay, so today, let's say on our table in front of us, there is a discussion where we are going to have a tech center for creating the platform. Okay, and Belarus is one of the country which we are considering for this purpose. But at the moment, a part of one co-founder who is from Belarus, who is in Minsk, we don't have other connections. I just want to be sure that this will be not the reason of refusal or something like that.
So I don't, Tonya, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is no reason to refuse a word to kind of having a Belarusian co-founder, or that's absolutely enough for us.
Yeah, okay. I think it's very simple.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Clear.
Okay, I think one last question, if anybody wants to ask anything. And as I said, any question, even if it's about helping your startup right now.
Yeah. There will be more questions now.
Yeah.
Well, I said one, so if there's a brave soul somewhere.
I think everybody's ready to go enjoy the good weather.
Okay.
If it is good where you are.
Well,
Anyway.
in that case, I want to thank everyone for being here, for dedicating your time. I want to thank USAID for helping us organize this event once again. Thank you for your support in the program and making sure that we can bring this to people. And again, if you have any questions, just ping us, ask us questions. I'm available on all kinds of channels. I'm happy to answer anything about the program, also about I love helping people with anything about your startup. I posted a link to my Discord. You can ask me questions there. And I think the same is true for Will and Tonya. So if we can help you and be of value to you, just let us know. And thank you for taking the time to join us on this event. Have a good, beautiful evening. Eat good food, treat yourself well, and keep building that life engine of yours.
Right. Thank
Over
you.
and out.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.